News alert. Right now, President Trump and Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau are meeting at the White House. You see there the photo op from just a little bit ago when they were first together. You would think the administration's executive order on immigration would come up. Perhaps it will. And news on this Monday that the president says he may rewrite that executive order after a federal appeals court refused to reinstate his restrictions on travel from 7 mostly Muslim countries. You know the story. Let's get to the news. This is Outnumbered. I'm Harris Faulkner. Here today, Sandra Smith. Meghan McCain, host of Kennedy on Fox Business. Kennedy and Sunshine Yellow today. And bringing the sunshine too, today's hashtag One Lucky Guy. A couch first-timer, Fox News contributor and nationally syndicated radio talk show host Kevin Jackson is here. He's outnumbered. And you told me very happy.
I am. I'm ecstatic to be here.
Good to have you.
I mean, you ladies
so nice.
are more lovely in person than you are on TV. Wow.
Oh, you're welcome back.
Everything.
By the way, your sock and tie game are very strong.
Oh,
very
like
strong.
good to hear. Good to
I
hear.
like it. All right, shall we move?
Let's move.
Oh, to the news. President Trump is in the White House, as I said, meeting with Canada's leader. The Trump team is working to see if a narrower version of his travel ban, as it's been called by some, a pause in immigration, would actually help get it through the courts, while he says multiple options are still on the table, including taking the fight all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. Mr. Trump's senior policy advisor, Stephen Miller, is accusing the courts of wrongfully seizing the president's authority to protect the homeland. Watch.
The president has the authority to impose moderate, necessary, and sensible restrictions, including putting in place new vetting procedures to protect this country. This is a judicial usurpation of power. It is a violation of judges' proper role in litigating disputes. We will fight it, and we will make sure that we take actions to keep from happening in the future what's happened in the past.
Kevin, I know you know from doing radio and shows that when somebody's trying to get that question, but, I imagine he would ask what you and I would. What will they talk about when he rewrites the executive order?
You know, I think Trump's going to stick to the same principles. I mean, he's made it pretty clear that it's his prerogative to do that. But I think what we should be looking at is what the Democrats have done here. It's almost like if we can't fix your brakes, we're going to make your horn louder. You know, Trump has addressed what I think most of the people in America are really complaining about. When during the campaign, two of the top 5 issues were had to do with Muslim security and terrorism, or security, you know, with vetting of the Muslims as well as terrorism. Those are 2 of the top 5. So I think that nothing's going to change with respect to it, other than he's probably going to just really take the presidential authority to the next level.
Meghan?
You know, we talked about this on Friday, and I actually think it would be prudent for him to completely rewrite it, since it looks like the Ninth Circuit has, torn this down. I agree with you, Kevin, that the meat and potatoes of this policy isn't going to change. I mean, he wants stricter immigration laws, the Muslim ban, which he says wasn't a ban, but his surrogate said were a Muslim ban on the campaign trail. I think he should throw out this language entirely and get somebody on TV who can explain this in a concise way, why the majority of Americans probably would get behind this. All he wants to do is protect our borders. He wants to get hard on national security. It's what he ran on. It's debatably what he won on. And I think part of the problem with this is the messaging and the rollout.
Yeah, when we look at the original executive order, the criticism really has come not just in the rollout, but also that the green card issue and people coming into this country who legitimately were trying to get here and were detained, were stopped, and how that wasn't addressed in the original writing. So a rewrite perhaps would give you an opportunity to at least address that issue.
Well, and my biggest problem with the executive order, and I've got a few of them philosophically especially, but I would say that it's the unintended consequences that follow from these less than properly thought out ideas. And I agree with Meghan. I think there are a lot of people in this country, and I've actually talked to a lot of libertarians who say you can't be totally loosey-goosey on immigration. We have to keep people out who want to compromise our freedom. That's what it means to embrace liberty. Well, you'd be surprised, especially hearing some of the rhetoric from the left, which is very irrational when it comes to this issue. I think that if they're going to rewrite it, they have to put a lot more thought and focus into it. It shouldn't just be about anticipating what's going to make it through the courts, but it really has to be something that can not only something that's effective, legal, and that can be disseminated to various agencies so they know how to implement it.
It just seems like when it comes to Donald Trump, the standard that he has to meet is so much higher than anybody else. And you're thinking to yourself,
why do you think that is?
It's pretty partisan. I mean, it's obvious. Donald Trump, before he declared himself Republican, could do no wrong. By the way, many of the very things we're talking about here were things that other people have already proposed. They would have been considered bipartisan issues. And you can always do the thought experiment to say, well, what if this were Obama doing that? And we all know what the answer would be. They'd be happy about it. It would be, everybody would be, certainly on the left, would be saying this is exactly what we should be doing.
So let's pick apart some specific points, because as we have heard, Donald Trump has argued that the 7 countries in this EO are, in his words, the same countries previously identified by the Obama administration as source of terror. The Ninth Circuit judges did express skepticism there. Where do you think he's willing to change here?
Well, I don't know that he needs to. There were 72 people that they found that were part of this terror list that had been in the United States. I believe 25 of them have been made citizens under under Obama. So he's got all the ammunition that he needs to say this is what we need to do. I think the majority of Americans have already seen what the things, and look, they're going to talk about this as though it's old news, but San Bernardino and what happened in Orlando, these are real things that happen to real people and real Americans. So people are sick of this. They're tired of having a discussion about should we protect our borders or not. Every country protects its borders, and if you start sensing that these types of things are happening routinely, which they seem to be when you add Boston Marathon and a bunch of other types of terror attacks, people are sensible about it.
You know, I want to make it clear, though, that we do understand that those things don't overlap at the point of people coming into the country. I mean, some of those people were already here. Some of them went through our schools, our high schools, our colleges.
Some of them were born here and radicalized.
We do want to acknowledge that that is the case. 2 things. The Wall Street Journal and the Associated Press did their fact-checking on what you're talking about and how many people have been arrested who fall into the category of maybe some of those 7 countries. But, Kennedy, you mentioned something that Democrats might have talked about, and I had forgotten about it. You're right. And those hacked emails, and some of them weren't always hacked, that we found out this summer, yeah, Hillary Clinton was talking about open borders.
No, she absolutely was, and that was one of the tenets. And you have to. And my issue with Democrats and open borders, especially progressive leftist Democrats, has always been they want to increase the entitlement state. They want to give people free stuff. And if you have open borders, then everyone is entitled to your entitlements, and the country can't exist like that.
It's not free.
No, it's absolutely not free.
We're definitely paying for it.
Citizenship is also precious. My problem with this and this brand of thinking on both sides is, yes, a country has every right to let people in who they want. They have the right to decide that. That's what it means to be a sovereign country and to respect your borders and others as well. But the other thing is when you keep everyone out, think of the people that you're not letting in. And Megan's talked about it. Some of the interpreters that our military works with, some journalists. We have a journalist friend who can't get a visa in this country because of the places he's been reporting.
Yeah.
We're not keeping everybody out, and that's what bugs me. Sorry to interrupt, Megan, but look, we're not keeping everybody out. We are an ingratiating country that is made up of everybody. So why is it we always come back to that? I think that's what a lot of Americans are tired of hearing. We have all of these nationalities. We never question what Saudi Arabia is doing in terms of their programs, or any other country for that matter. It's always on us.
Well, right now it's complicated with Saudi Arabia because we need their help in other parts of the world. We need for them to set up a safe zone so we can put people there, these refugees, some of them. Go ahead, Megan.
Oh, no, I mean, I'm just echoing what Kennedy said. I think what the flip side to being a great businessman and having no experience in politics is that there are a lot of optics and political narratives that could be tweaked a little bit, that could help him in the administration. When you see translators that have helped our troops in Iraq, and there's still soldiers currently in Iraq serving the military, not letting them into the country and being detained, it's bad optics all the way around, and it's ammo for the left, and he certainly doesn't need that right now.
Well, it doesn't help us in where we are fighting, and we need their help.
Yes.
Right? We need their intel on the ground. We need their support.
It's the first place I'd start if I were redoing this.
Yeah, interesting. And with Saudi Arabia, we know about who came from there and what they did when they got to this country, 9/11. But it's a complicated relationship right now, for sure. All right. It just may be the first critical foreign policy test of his presidency. North Korea just fired a missile over the Sea of Japan while President Trump was hosting Japan's leader in Florida. The fallout and the message President Trump needs to send, we'll talk about it. Is Senator Elizabeth Warren the face of the Democratic Party now? That's what President Trump reportedly told a group of red state Democrats. Whether he's right and what it could mean for Democrats, their party. And after the show on TV, we pop up online, and we can't wait for you to hop on our live chat and talk live today with Kevin. You can ask him anything you want. FoxNews.com/outnumbered. Click the Overtime tab or go to Facebook Live. Watch us there. Our handle is OutnumberedFNC. And tweet us anytime you want. Birdie, tweet. We're coming right back.
The U.S., Japan, and South Korea requesting an urgent meeting of the UN Security Council. It's over North Korea's latest ballistic missile launch. It's first since President Trump took office. The meeting expected to take place today. President Trump and Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe learning of the launch while in Florida together. Abe calling the move absolutely intolerable. President Trump saying, "We've got Japan's back."
I just want everybody to understand and fully know that the United States of America stands behind Japan, its great ally, 100%.
Meantime, U.S. officials telling Fox News that North Korean leader Kim Jong-un was present at the missile launch. This latest provocation from the rogue nation, widely seen as a challenge to the new Trump administration. Do you see it as that, Kevin Jackson?
I'm actually surprised North Korea hasn't been nuked yet, right? Donald Trump is supposed to be the hothead. He's supposed to be the guy we were afraid to give the button to. And, how do they see it? I think it's going to be a real test of Donald Trump and what we've witnessed, and I believe so far in some of his other policy positions. I think that he will take a very, very measured approach, and it's probably going to surprise a lot of people on the left as to how measured he is in dealing with it. But in terms of what's going to happen, I really couldn't predict it right now.
Certainly a quick test. First few weeks of Donald Trump's presidency. Is he smart not to rush to react to this, Megan?
Yeah, and this isn't something that's necessarily new. I mean, North Korea has saber-rattled in this way under President Obama to see how he would react. This is something he will have to confront as commander-in-chief. He knew that going into it. This is one of the things that his critics are most, that question the most on the campaign trail, is how he would react to a national incident like this. It gives me great comfort to see him going out with the Prime Minister of Japan. That being said, I would have had preferred that he also said we commit to our ally in South Korea as well, because that's going to be a very important relationship going forward, especially if Kim Jong-un feels empowered under this new administration, thinking that he could possibly, I don't know, manipulate Donald Trump in a way he couldn't President Obama.
I think that sort of goes without saying, though, Megan, that we're going to stand up with South Korea. I think what his policy positions have been leading up to this had been with China and how they needed to intervene and start getting more involved. And I think that, quite frankly, that part of it is where the entirety of it will circle back.
And that's it's interesting that you bring up China, because I see China and North Korea like Israel and Iran. And, I think it's going to be a very tricky situation diplomatically, certainly in Asia. But, the president does have to stand up to North Korea. And this was absolutely no accident that missile fell just 300 miles from Japan's.
While he's here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. While the Prime Minister is in Florida with the president. So
I have a different theory just in terms of how thirsty North Korea's leadership seems for attention. They're petulant often.
Sure.
Yeah. Somebody else was getting all the shine. And I think that it also might have been planned that way, because what are we talking about today? Our mouths are spitting out North Korea 10 million
Well,
times.
to Kennedy's point, that's exactly what he does. And Megan made the point earlier
Try
as
to
well.
legitimize.
Yeah, legitimize and let's get the attention back. I think one of the things that we really haven't talked about with respect to Trump's take on foreign policy, I think he sees the United States GDP as the biggest weapon. And I think that when he starts negotiating with this, it won't be from a military point of view. I think it'll actually be from a financial point of view.
You're right. But in North Korea, they don't have a problem starving their own citizens, which is so incredibly tragic. I'm actually very interested to see what Rex Tillerson has to say about this. I think they spent so much time, and they actually wasted so much time only talking about Russia, it felt like, in his confirmation hearing, that we didn't get to talk about places like North Korea. And I want to know how he feels about those sanctions, because I don't necessarily see them as working, because you've got a dictator who honestly doesn't care if his people starve to death. He will blame it on the United States, and that's what he's looking for. He's almost looking for a provocation that will
it legitimizes him.
That will create an attack. Then he can further blame the United States. And we'll see what China does then.
I was going to say he's got the Chinese propping him up right now, but when Donald Trump goes that angle, things could change dramatically.
And you think he'll do that?
I think
down the money lane.
I really do.
Well, he's trying to also set himself apart from Kim Jong-un. right? I mean, he's making his own legitimacy, his own.
Your word earlier,
attention.
the petulant child.
Yeah, petulant.
Right. Well, intense reaction to the Trump administration after immigration agents detain hundreds of illegals with criminal records. The president defending the raids as opposition grows. But is there a double standard at play here? Plus, a bombshell new report claiming Russia could send NSA leaker Edward Snowden back to the U.S. as a gift to Donald Trump. But big concerns over what Russia's motivation might be. That's next.
President Trump is defending the detention of hundreds of illegal immigrants across at least 6 states last week. U.S. immigration officials say of the 160 rounded up in Southern California, roughly 75% had prior felony convictions. Mr. Trump tweeting, quote, "The crackdown on illegal criminals is merely the keeping of my campaign promise. Gang members, drug dealers, and others are being removed." White House senior policy advisor Stephen Miller saying it's going to lead to a safer America.
Right now, as a result of the president's order, greatly expanded and more vigorous immigration enforcement activities are taking place. It is true that Operation Crosscheck is something that happens every year. But this year, we've taken new and greater steps to remove criminal aliens from our communities. Because of President Trump's actions, innocent people are now being kept out of harm's way.
ICE insists the operations are routine and planning for them actually started under the Obama administration. Still, Democrats fear the raids are a sign of things to come under President Trump. Leaders of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus signing an open letter to the acting director of ICE saying, quote, "These raids have struck fear in the hearts of the immigrant community. It is critical that our constituents have clarity on ICE operations. Without this guidance, our communities will be paralyzed as students will remain home from school, parents will be afraid to leave children alone, and our local economies will be irreparably damaged." You know, Kevin, this isn't that complicated to me. As they said, 75% of the 160 people rounded up in California had felony convictions. You come to this country illegally, you're already breaking the law. You got a felony account, you're also breaking the law. Why should they have rights that I don't?
Yeah, it's like Trump administration saying we're upping our standards, so up yours to the left. You know, everybody, look, this is one of these issues, again, and I alluded to it in the earlier segment, where the United States is constantly being held to a standard that the world doesn't get held to. We have every nationality, every religious, point of view, you name it, it exists here. We've allowed it to come here through our legal immigration policies, and we're debating nonsense like this. And it's what I hear when I travel most around the country is, why are we being held to the standard? Look at Pakistan, look at any country in the Middle East, look at some of these other countries, and ask yourself, what's the level of heterogeneous society do they have? What's the multiculturalism of some of the countries in Africa? They're never held to task. So when it comes to this, Donald Trump, number one, made it his campaign promise. And let me tell you, people are ecstatic that he's actually living up to those promises. And I think when you look at how he's approaching it, it's been masterful. How do you say, I don't want somebody to go after criminals who, domestic abuse, DUI, and other felonies when you're trying to protect American citizens?
Kennedy, I want to go to you. This is such a complicated issue, but I think when they're talking about deporting people who have committed felonies, I don't understand why there's any debate whatsoever on the left.
Well, here's the problem, because it definitely fans the flames of emotionalism on the left. And when you have communities of people who are truly scared, and you have politicians saying, they might stay home from work, the kids might stay home from school, it's almost a dog whistle and a suggestion. And, I think some of the language that comes from the left is very hyperbolic. But having said that, we are a nation of immigrants. We are a nation that welcomes people. Businesses welcome people. People who, even if they're using the same Social Security number 600 times, they're still paying taxes with that Social Security number. It's a bad system. It's really hard for people to get in here and work for a little while, and that's why they have to break the laws. I know Kellyanne Conway was saying, and rightly so, our first lady is an immigrant, and we should be really, really proud of that fact. But she also said it took her 10 years in order to become legal in this country. Most people don't have that kind of time, and if there is a need for it, if you ask businesses, there certainly is a need for it. So I just have a hard time when I feel like people are demonized for wanting to come to this country, work, participate, and make it better.
Well, all right, I'm going to jump in here and kind of change the topic, because we've been waiting for the president and his meeting with the Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau for that video to come up. Women in the workforce is what they're focusing on the cabinet room roundtable, the advancement of women. Now, what we're being told is that they're going to launch a task force between the United States and Canada, calling on both countries to further the advancement of women business leaders and business owners, female entrepreneurs, and they will hold that roundtable in just a few minutes. So I just wanted to get on the record with that, because when it comes up, we will go much faster than what I just talked. So I'll be quiet now.
Okay, so why doesn't Stephen Miller on the Sunday talk shows, Trump's senior policy advisor, why doesn't he have an answer when he is asked whether or not the president believes that if the only crime an undocumented immigrant committed is living in the U.S. illegally was enough to justify deportation? He says he declined to say whether or not the president believes that. The immigration judge makes those decisions. Why isn't there a clear answer from the White House on that?
Well, I don't know why there's not a clear answer from the White House as far as Stephen Miller goes, which, by the way, I love this guy. He's so deadpan. But it's not for him to answer that. And to one point that Kennedy made earlier, it is a privilege to be here. I had a friend who's a doctor, and it took him forever to get here. And that's the allure of coming to this country is you don't just get here easily. I'll put it to you this way. There's not a lot of people trying to get to Guatemala. So we say these things, you know, as pejoratives, but the fact of the matter is that's what we're trying to get to.
All right, I'm going to jump in. It's going to be quick. Like I said, the President of the United States meeting with the Prime Minister of Canada. Go.
I love that.
Hello, everybody. Please sit down. Let me help you.
Oh, sorry.
I'll let you go first. How's that? Really heavy hitter.
You have to be strong for these chairs. The cabinet room. Strong people.
Strong women. Strong women are here.
Strong women are definitely here. There's no question about it. Thank you all very much. This is a great honor. Very nice. I have recognized some of you. Great success. So important. I'm honored to be here with Prime Minister Trudeau, whose father I knew and respected greatly. And he gave me a picture of myself and your father. And what a great picture. I will keep that in a very special place at the Waldorf Astoria together. We're going to launch the Canada-United States Council for Advancement of Women Entrepreneurs, of which we have some of the great ones in this room, and business leaders. We have so many great women leaders around the table today, and we're going to go through your names and exactly, because many of you I know, some of you I don't. I want to find out all about you. Women, as you know, and I can say that from my past life, I had so many women executives that were phenomenal, and really helped me a great deal in business. So it was really fantastic. They play a tremendously important role, women, in our economy. Women are the primary source of income in 40% of American households, and households with children under the age of 18. In order to create economic growth and lots of very good, well-paying jobs, we must ensure that our economy is a place where women can work and thrive. And I think that's happening in the United States much more so. And Ivanka is very much involved in this, and I appreciate you being involved in it. And I know, Justin, in Canada, it's happening big league, and that's very important. We need policies that help to keep women in the workforce and to address the unique barriers faced by female entrepreneurs, and they are unique. We need to make it easier for women to manage the demands of having both a job and a family. And we also need to make it easier for women entrepreneurs to get access to capital. And I guess pretty much all entrepreneurs, we have to help them out, because the system is not working so well for entrepreneurs getting capital, but it's in particular difficult for women. So we're going to get access to markets and access to networks. And I look forward to hearing your advice. We're going to go around the table, and I want to really learn something today. And again, it's a great honor to be with you. And Justin, I can say on behalf of our country, it's an honor to be with you.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Donald, for welcoming us. And I'm really excited about launching this. Sitting around the table here with a number of successful executives who just happen to be women. One of the things that I've been lucky enough to do over the past year in New York and Beijing and across Canada is sit down with women CEOs, women executives to talk about both their successes and the challenges they're facing that are particular, but also how, of course, we create more paths to success for women across our community and across our society. Whenever I sit down with a woman executive, I know that she has had to overcome significant barriers that exist, and therefore is likely to have greater insight into help reduce those barriers for others, but also be a formidable contributor to the success of the business and her economy. So I think for me, it's not just about doing the right thing. It's about understanding that women in leadership positions is a very powerful leverage for success, for business, for communities, and for our entire economy. Alors c'est un grand plaisir de pouvoir vous écouter aujourd'hui, entendre les différentes perspectives et souligner le rôle important que les femmes ont dans la réussite qu'on va bâtir dans ce monde. It's a great pleasure to sit with you now and to hear from your extraordinary leadership.
Thank you. Well, how about we start with Ivanka? We go around the room. Ivanka, you might just want to say a couple of words.
Welcome, and I'm honored to be here. I'm really looking forward to hearing from each of you who serve as tremendous role models for me and so many other business leaders across both of our countries, and can lend some tremendously valuable perspective as we think about the unique challenges that entrepreneurs, women in the workforce, female small business owners are confronted with each and every day. And as we think about how we level the playing field for this generation and for the next. So thank you for being here, and I look forward to hearing from each of you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Dawn Farrell, and I'm from a company called TransAlta, which is located in Alberta, where you're going to build the Keystone Pipeline.
That's right. There's a big chunk of it. That's right.
So thanks for the opportunity to contribute to this important dialogue, and a dialogue that we've had for over hundreds of years. My company is in the business of...
All right, well, one of the more recent voices you heard, you saw the back of her head there, that was Ivanka Trump, the president's daughter. She was part of organizing that round table for women with the Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau. It was a round table on the advancement of women entrepreneurs and business leaders, and she and her father helped organize that group of female business leaders and entrepreneurs to discuss policies that would eventually help women stay in the workforce. And one key point about Justin Trudeau's cabinet, half of it is women. While our president hasn't promised that, he has worked towards that by putting women in his cabinet as well. So an important discussion taking place there on women in business. All right, well, President Trump reportedly reviving an old nickname for Senator Elizabeth Warren and calling her the face of the Democratic Party, whether she is and if it's a good or bad thing for the party. President Trump reportedly taunting Democrats with an insult he used for Senator Elizabeth Warren during his campaign to mock her self-proclaimed Native American heritage. Politico reporting on a closed-door meeting he had with senators late last week, saying he referred to Warren several times as Pocahontas, while telling Democrats she's now the face of their party. This, as a new liberal movement similar to the Tea Party, appears to be taking shape. A piece in the Washington Post points out its future is uncertain, saying, quote, what is less clear is whether such energy and resources will remain united with Democratic leaders or will be turned on them, as happened with the Tea Party and the Republican establishment, if the activist base grows frustrated with the pace of progress. Okay, first off, Pocahontas and the use of that. Your thoughts there, sir?
Well, she's been called Pocahontas and Liawatha, which I think are actually more clever. And quite frankly, Elizabeth Warren should be ashamed of herself. She's taken, this Native
Is she
American...
becoming the face of the party, as he's suggesting?
I think that they've tried to make her that. It's kind of like the fake news. I don't believe she really is. I don't believe the majority of leftists really follow Elizabeth Warren. The the elitist of the party would like to believe that they're making her that. But I think
it does seem like they're desperately searching for the face of their party.
I disagree with that. I actually think that if she weren't the face of the party, and she is the natural mantle to Bernie Sanders, who won 22 states. I mean, they're fringe progressives, but they really excited the base of the party, and especially Bernie talking about populism resonated in a very similar way. And she runs contrary to the establishment. The establishment is still very much Nancy Pelosi, and Nancy Pelosi thinks things should be business as usual. Elizabeth Warren came out last week and said we have to take a much harder look at ourselves and the way we failed. She will certainly make the country fail if she's elected president, and somehow shoehorns a 70% tax rate through. But she would love to do that. But yeah, she is the face of the party. Big difference between the Tea Party and this. This is not the Tea Party. This is not a movement until they get like-minded politicians elected to office, which they haven't been able to do.
Well, and she's in trouble in her own state of Massachusetts.
Well, I was going to say, have you ever seen her
campaign? How she becomes the face of the party, a party that just lost more than 1,000 seats since 2009, state houses, both bicamerally in Congress and the White House.
You're exactly right. And no, I'm not an ageist.
She may lose.
Yeah, I'm not an ageist or anything, but when you're trying to put the fate of your party on these, practical septuagenarians, these 70-plus-year-olds, Bernie Sanders, I think, is still more popular than Elizabeth Warren. So if you were going to make the face of the party, I would say Bernie's probably closer to that.
What do you make of this liberal Tea Party and the reference to it, Megan?
I agree with Kennedy that until they start getting people elected or there's actual funding, the Koch brothers were big funders of the Tea Party. I don't really see it as anything comparing to the Tea Party movement. That being said, it is stupid of any politician in office not to recognize anger and protesting going on in the country. I thought Obama was very naive not to pay more attention to the Tea Party movement when it was going on. Elizabeth Warren, if you've ever seen her campaign, she's terrible. She really only reaches out to a very specific segment of the population. I think if she were really that good, it would have pushed her back up in 2016. It would have been her time.
She does have a loud voice,
as the running mate?
They are loud.
She has a loud voice, but I agree with Kevin that it's like a band that has a very niche audience. Yeah, they're very loud, they're very intense, they'll go to every concert, but you're not going to probably sell out Madison Square Garden.
This is such a weird time that
it's not her.
I agree with you. It shouldn't be her. It shouldn't be that brand of socialism that she and Bernie are peddling, because it's incredibly dangerous for the country on a number of levels. But who would have thought in 2015 that a moth-ridden old socialist like Bernie Sanders would almost best Hillary Clinton?
Yeah, but he's
ultimate
likable.
Establishment candidate.
Yeah, I think Bernie Sanders is a borderline lunatic policy-wise, but he looks like a fun guy I'd have a drink
Kevin
with.
Jackson, you having fun yet?
I am. I'm having a great time.
But actress and singer Joy Villa making a different statement, showing her love for the president in a dress emblazoned with Mr. Trump's famous campaign slogan, "Make America Great Again." Liberals unleashing their wrath on Twitter, writing, "Imagine choosing to end your career before anyone even knew who you were." Y'all, I found her account. She's a known Grammys red carpet troll, and you need to remove the word feminist from your bio, because by supporting Trump, you are far from one. So, Kevin, I can't watch award shows anymore because ever since the Golden Globes, I believe, with Meryl Streep, I just can't take it anymore, so I've stopped watching entirely.
You and much of the rest of conservative America, I believe, has done the same thing. What's interesting about this particular case or this event was, if you go to these events and you look at the dresses and you ooh and ah over them, and in this particular case, the ooh and ah was based over the message. I don't know, I'm not a fashion maven, but I don't know that it was that spectacular of a dress per se. But
no, it was good.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay, but the message
to Make America Great Again.
Yeah, the Make America Great Again was really a big deal. But what's interesting about it was a gay Filipino man who designed the dress, voted for Donald Trump. The woman wearing it, her father's Italian, her mother's black. She wears the dress. And then you look at the disjoint between leftist America saying, how did we lose? You lost because that demographic who kept itself under the radar showed itself right there. So, I just find it interesting that we're looking at this thing and Hollywood is, upset at itself, but that's the demographic that is voting for Trump, and that's also the undercurrent of America that still supports him.
Sandra, when I saw her dress on Twitter, my immediate joke was, I hope she's safe and she has security and she's going to make it out to the parking lot okay.
And her choice of words was very strong in backing up her belief. She says, I'm either going to stand up for what I believe or give in to what I don't. And when the producers of the Grammys told everyone, go political, be political on that stage, well, he didn't mean that. He said, stick to your liberal agenda, bring that to the stage.
Right.
There was there's no tolerance for that.
No,
on the red carpet
very
there.
good point that, that was the agenda, and they figured everybody would flow with that agenda. But then you get something like this that happens. And let me tell you, as much as the negative news that came out of this, so many positive things came out. Because, number one, on my Twitter feed, people were saying, I'm proud of you, way to go, and way to stick it in the face of the left, right, at an event where they normally don't expect it.
Now that's how you do Monday. You invite Kevin Jackson on the couch.
Yeah,
Thanks for being here.
My
Good to
pleasure.
have you.
All right, with
Thank
a
you.
few seconds left, I'll say thank you. I'll say we'll see you on TV again at noon Eastern tomorrow, happening now.